A 6-year-old girl ran toward the most feared men in the parking lot, crying, shaking, and completely alone. And what happened in the next 60 seconds left everyone watching completely silent. This is a story most people never hear, because the men in this story don't make the news for saving people. They make the news for other things. But on one ordinary evening at a gas station, everything you think you know, about bikers, about who protects you and who doesn't, got flipped. Completely upside down. Stay with me, because this one is going to hit you. Her name was Maya, 6 years old. Dark curly hair. A pink jacket she wore almost every single day because it was her favorite. Maya was sitting in the back seat of her mother's car while her mom, Carla, filled up the gas tank outside. Carla was a nurse. A single mother, the kind of woman who works a double shift, comes home with sore feet, and still finds the energy to make dinner and read her daughter a bedtime story. She did everything alone, and she never complained about it. That evening, she just wanted to get home, but life had other plans. 2 men appeared from the side of the building. Maya saw them from the window before her mother did. One of them was Carla's ex-boyfriend. Man she had walked away from 8 months earlier after he made her life a nightmare. She had packed her things, taken Maya, and left without looking back. She changed her number. She moved to a different part of town. She thought it was over. It wasn't. He had found her. The moment Carla saw his face, her whole body went stiff. She reached for the car door. He grabbed her arm. His friend stepped in front of the door and blocked it. Maya pressed her small hands flat against the car window and watched. Her mother tried to pull free. The man tightened his grip. He said something close to her face and something low and angry. Then he and his friend started pulling Carla toward the back of the building, away from the lights, away from the road, away from anyone who could see. Maya had maybe 10 seconds to make a decision. She opened the car door and got out. She looked around the parking lot, her chest heaving, tears already running down her face. There was a man at the pump on the other side. He had his back turned and earphones in. There was a woman walking. Toward the entrance of the station, she was moving fast and didn't look up. And then there were the bikers. 7 of them, parked in a row near the edge of the lot. Big men in black leather vests, arms covered in tattoos, bikes that looked like they weighed more than a car. These were the men that people quietly moved away from when they walked into a diner. The men that made parents put a hand on their child's shoulder and steer them in the other direction. Maya ran straight to them. She grabbed the sleeve of the biggest one. His name was Danny. Most people called him Bear, 6'2", built like a wall, with a face that looked like it had been through some things. He was mid-conversation with one of his crew when he felt the small hand on his arm. He looked down. A tiny girl with wet cheeks and a pink jacket was looking up at him, barely able to catch her breath. "Please," she said. "They're beating my mama. Please help her." Bear looked at her for exactly 1 second. Then he was already moving. He didn't yell. He didn't make a big show of it. He just looked back at his crew, nodded once, and walked. All 6 of the others were on their feet before he even said a word. That's the kind of trust that only comes from years of riding together. You move when your brother moves, no questions asked. They found Carla behind the building. Her back was against the brick wall. One of the men had her by the collar. The other was standing close, keeping her from moving anywhere. Bear came around the corner first. He stopped about 10 feet away. His crew fanned out behind him in a line. Nobody ran. Nobody shouted. They just appeared, 7 large men in leather standing completely still. Bear's voice came out quiet. That specific kind of quiet that is somehow louder than screaming. "Let her go." Both men turned around slowly. They looked at Bear. Then they looked at the 6 men standing behind him. Then they looked back at Bear. The ex-boyfriend released Carla's collar. He took 1 step back, then another. He put his hands up, like this was all some kind of misunderstanding. "We're just talking," he said. Bear didn't blink. "No, you're leaving." Nobody moved for 3 full seconds. Then they left. Carla's legs gave out. She slid down the wall and sat on the ground, still shaking so hard she couldn't speak. Bear, this enormous, tattooed, leather-wearing man, crouched down in front of her. He made himself small. He kept his hands open where she could see them. "You're okay," he said quietly. "You're safe." Maya came sprinting around the corner and crashed straight into her mother's arms. One of the other bikers, a quiet guy everyone called Hoss, had already called the police. He stood a few feet away with his phone in his hand, watching the entrance of the alley in case the two men tried to come back. They didn't. The police arrived within minutes. 2 officers took the report while Bear and his crew stood nearby. One of the officers recognized Bear. He gave him a slow nod, the kind of nod that says more than words. The ex-boyfriend was picked up 2 blocks away, still on foot. He was arrested that night. His friend was brought in shortly after. Later, Carla sat on the curb in the front of the station. One of the bikers had gone inside and come back with a bottle of cold water for her, without anyone asking him to. Maya was in the back seat again, finally calm, eyes closed, asleep before she even knew it. Carla looked at Bear. She had stopped crying, but her voice was still shaky. "Why did you help us?" she asked. Bear was quiet for a moment. He looked down at his hands. "I have a daughter," he said. "She's 9. That was it. No big speech. No looking for a thank you. Just that one sentence, and somehow it explained everything." Carla stared at him and felt something shift inside her chest, because she had spent years teaching herself to be afraid of men who looked like him. And here he was, the man who had just walked around a dark corner for her without a single second of hesitation, not because he wanted to be a hero, but because a little girl grabbed his sleeve and asked him to help her mama. A little while later, one of the other bikers walked over to the car and looked through the window at Maya sleeping. He had a long beard, a scar above his eyebrow, and arms that could probably bend steel. He stood there quietly for a moment. "Brave kid," he said softly. He didn't say it for anyone else to hear. He just said it. That story spread through the town fast. People who had avoided these men for years suddenly found themselves sitting with something uncomfortable. The realization that they had made up a story about who these men were, and they had been wrong. Bear never went looking for attention. When a local news reporter reached out the following week, he shook his head. "We didn't do anything special," he said. "A kid asked for help. That's all." But here's the thing. Most people in that parking lot didn't move. The man with the earphones never turned around. The woman walking to the entrance never looked up. Everybody was in their own world, doing their own thing, not looking for trouble. These 7 men could have done the exact same thing. They didn't. And that little girl, 6 years old, terrified with no plan and no backup, looked around a parking lot full of strangers and chose them. Not the man at the pump. Not the woman by the door. Them. Maybe she saw something that the adults around her had trained themselves not to see. That sometimes the most dangerous-looking person in the room is the safest one to run to.